Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Healthy, Hot, and Happy event. I'm your host, Melissa Kathryn. As always, I am so excited to have you here. And today I have with us Sarah Jane Farrell, and she is coming to us from Africa. I'm so excited, and I can't wait to introduce her. Before I do, the topic that we're going to talk about today is a key fundamental topic that is so necessary to your success. This event is set up to put you into action and for you to get results. So we have 2 weeks. Let's make them last, right? Make the most of them. So this is about effortless weight loss, loving the skin you're in regardless of where you're at, and thriving in life while achieving optimal health. And it has to start with your weight and your health. That is the cornerstone. So let's dive in. So Sarah Jane, you guys, is a multi-sensory and medical intuitive, animal communicator, life design strategist, and wealth activator. I mean, sounds pretty fabulous to me. Who uses her diverse skills to assist highly sensitive women to heal from depression, anxiety, and the addiction to not enoughness naturally. Through functional, integrative energy medicine and root cause resolution of mindfulness practices, you can write your own personal prescription, claim your true nature so that you can fully step into your happy, healthy purpose and driven life. Her desire is for you to own your unique talents and capacities with courage, confidence, and joy, and serve your dream clients. Her desire is to work toward a common goal, wholehearted living, love, and happiness. The only way to grow a sustainable future for all life here on earth. And she's created a unique blend of coaching, energy healing, and body, mind, heart release techniques that help women let go of the blocks that hold them back from living fully. She specializes in functional integrative medicine and mindfulness work to assist people to heal from depression, anxiety, and disconnect naturally so that they can lead happy, healthy lives. So how fabulous does that sound? So Sarah Jane, it is so nice to have you here.
Oh, it's such a privilege and honor to be here with you. Thank you so much.
The work that you do is really fascinating, and I love, you're like me, you incorporate all of these different modalities. I'm always talking, I'm like, it's coaching and hypnotherapy, and I do energy work and mind, heavy in mindset training. And it's like, those modalities, there's so many of them are needed to really create that true freedom and to help us to thrive in life. I would love if we could, let's just start off this way. When you are talking about these different modalities of work, for you, why did you feel the need to combine them all? And how does that help to really help us to create these bodies and lives that we love?
That is such a great question. And the best way for me to give you my awareness on it, because I don't have any answer for anything, I always say what I need to know is what I'm looking for myself, is really that about 15 years ago, I pretty much had a breakdown. My life wasn't working for me. I had what looked like a great shiny life on the outside, and everybody thought I had the fame and the fortune and the perfect life, but inside I was really, really dying. And I'd had a history of depression before, but I kind of just managed to be coping and putting on the masks and getting on with it. And I really wasn't prepared when I booked into a mental hospital, and it's not a good idea in Africa to do that. You do not want to go into a government mental institution because, as you know, they don't see the gift in depression. They see you as, okay, what's the problem, and let's medicate you into a zombified state. So I pretty much lost a year of my life being drugged out and just numbed down to everything. And in the process of inquiry, knowing that this wasn't what I wanted, and if this was it, I was out of here. And I wanted to live. I started to explore different modalities. And of course, there'd been all the diagnoses and prognoses and all the judgments and all the conclusions around how fragile I was from my family and from my support system, that, basically I had to be on antidepressants for the rest of my life or I'd want to kill myself again. And I wasn't gonna go that route. So that was really my entry point into looking at what else was out there, because I wasn't going to be medicated out to a life of being a robot or being an absolute zombie and just feeling empty and like something was missing. So I started getting anything and everything that I could learn, from body talk, from acupuncture. I pretty much did every modality that I could lay my hands on. And through that, in the process, they also found that I had what they call an acoustic neuroma, and I actually had 2 of them on either side of my brainstem. So they were inoperable brain tumors that they couldn't operate on. And that was maybe why, because I was a medical mystery, they didn't know what to do with me, other than to medicate all the symptoms down, that I started applying a lot of what I was learning, and the tumors shrank. So a lot of the bipolar symptoms, or the symptoms of high anxiety and pyroluria, were really, really an awareness for me of like, wow, how many other people out there are buying the diagnosis, that there is no hope and there is no other way, and then living in this fear, because that brings in its own fear, doesn't it?
Oh, of course. And then you're medicated on top of it. So, and then you're being told by doctors who we give authority to know better. Unfortunately, many people give them more authority over what they know for themselves, to tell them what they should and should be thinking, taking, doing, not doing.
Absolutely. And, in ancient traditions, they would have said that if you listen to depression, if you look at things as what the shamanics would have told you, in the white coat, as the medical profession have taken on to serve, to see the wholeness in somebody before, we're not told that there's a gift in that, that a spiritual breakdown is actually a spiritual breakthrough. We're just told there's something wrong with you. And there's so many people I've seen in my practice, and I'm sure you have too, that we're sensitive. We're sensitive to energy. We're sensitive to the external environment. I always say I'm the gun and your environment is the trigger. So it's not that there's something wrong. There's nothing to fix, but it's just there's so much confusing information out there telling you that you are broken and that that there is no other way. And this is really what happens in science, is that we really medicalize what ancient tradition, like Chinese medicine, which is one of my greatest loves, because it works. There's a reason that it works. There's a reason Ayurvedic works, because this has been going on for years and years and years, and they knew how to tap into blockages in the body on meridian systems and everything else. And I really want to be a voice for people that are feeling like they're suffering with nowhere out. They are the misfits. They're the ones that don't fit in, and they are wandering around from place to place, enduring drudgery and depression and suicidal thoughts, and being made wrong for their empathy. So that was really why I got into energy medicine and being my own medicine. And I believe it really starts at the brain. So my gift in my brain tumor was really, if the body follows the mind, and my mindful or not being mindful of that my life was terrible, I wanted a way out, that perhaps I did create that tumor to get out of my life in some way. And I see so many people that come to me with chronic 3-4 stage cancers, or been told to pack their bags, and that's their lot in life. And when we really start to get into the root cause, other than the fact that most of this is traumatic on some level, it doesn't have to be a big trauma, but most of us have known depression. And if you're into that, we are infinite beings and we've lived other lives, that we've been traumatized, especially as a tribe of women. We've known persecution. We've known how to dim our lights, as you speak of, because it wasn't safe. We were killed and hung and burnt at the stake for that. So to actually come into a place of knowing that there's another way, and yes, in a lot of places in Africa, it still isn't safe to be that bright and shiny. It isn't that safe to be a medicine woman or a seer. But to hear voices, to receive visions, as I did as a child, that was just not on. And I've just seen so many people that have felt like they were literally going mad, when actually they were bringing in a different way of being into the world for other people to receive that wasn't mainstream. And
well, I love what you're talking about, because you're talking about taking something where we're made to feel wrong, and society can push one, view of, oh, okay, well, you're depressed, and we can feel wrong, and we can have a lot of harsh judgments. And then the beauty in seeing that that's a gift and how to turn that around. So when it comes down to self-judgment, right, and that lack of self-acceptance, right, because you actually had to be stronger than that, and the naysayers and the talk and the chatter, and even in your own mind, I find that and what we're doing here in this event is really getting people to become the best version of themselves, to break free from those limiting beliefs, many of which started for them in their own lives and with limiting beliefs and self-judgments. How do we break free from self-judgment and turn whatever traumas or limiting beliefs into something that is a blessing, and actually be able to bring ourselves to that space?
Again, these are great questions, and they're so rich and textured that I don't think that there's one way of getting there. I think it's really about expanding yourself out, in a sense, to looking at the parts where you go deeper into it. People say, just get over it. I know that was something that really used to drive me insane, when people would say, oh, just snap out of it. What have you got to be depressed about? What have you got to be unhappy about? And when you're in that space, it's very difficult to you can't just snap out of it, because with integrative medicine, that too, that, sometimes there is biochemical imbalances. There is trauma that needs to be released. So I think it's a very personalized prescription of looking at what works for you, especially when you start to look at a full toolbox like we have of, how can you get there? That's why some modalities resonate more with other people than others, because it's really about your love language. It's what's going to speak to you and what's going to give you more space, and then being gentle enough with yourself. I think it's about baby steps. It's about taking one step and see where you land. And if it doesn't feel good, to choose something else again, because that's that type of sort of psychic space where we start to splinter off and feel separate from everybody else.
Yeah.
And that to me is what I call attention nature deficit. We're not getting out in nature. We are disconnected from the sunlight. We're not getting out in the sun. We're not playing enough. We're not having fun. So it doesn't have to be complicated. I would just say for everybody to find your own way is you've got to see what works and what doesn't for you, and really just not lose focus on what is this, what do I want to be in this world, and who are the people that are going to support me in getting there, because that's that kind of split off where we feel like we're alone and that we don't have. Yeah. And I call that, that for me, I call that separation sickness, where we've really cut off and disconnected from nature. We've cut off from the animals. We've cut off from our natural responses. And until we actually come into that wholeness of knowing that we're all connected to each other, and that everything has a tsunami effect of change, that you can just start with you And getting out of judgment, well, look at the parts where you're making yourself a judgeable offense. We do this with our bodies all the time, don't we? Whatever body we create, we have a gift for creating that body. Our bodies are there to move us through this beautiful adventure called life, but we're not enjoying it because our judgment of the wrongness of it, of our bodies, of what's showing up, whatever it is that thing that locks it into place and doesn't allow it to change. Just like disease, this is how we literally start to create imbalance and dis-ease, which is just the opposite of easy, because we perpetrate that judgment of no change as our reality. And what we have is this capacity to create our bodies any which way we want. Our bodies never leave us. They're like our greatest consciousness facilitator. They're knocking on us, they're nudging us, they're giving us these clues all the time. And we're in our heads, kind of like, the horse is our body, and it's this magnificent beast that wants to gallop and remind you to have fun. And we're stuck in the head as the rider, trying to go against our innate being of living in our true nature. And what's true for me doesn't need to be true for you. And I think that's the big part about judgment. I always say, if you start to end the weight of judgment, literally the heaviness of which you're carrying yourself around, when you start to open yourself up to a different possibility, your body is going to instantly lighten up. But we're constantly like loading it down with all this, all this judgment and all the things that we think are wrong about our bodies, rather than actually asking our bodies, hey body, what do you want? What do you need? How can I support you? We don't see our bodies as having its own innate consciousness, and our bodies are always going to make us right, and they do, right?
Yeah, guys, this is what you've heard me talk about on many of these, which is that mind-body connection that really needs to happen, because when we've dieted for so long, or aren't, regardless of where you're at in your journey with your body, when you're outsourcing and looking to other people constantly and on a diet or doing this challenge or wanting your body to perform a certain way, you're not actually listening to what it's telling you. And that connection is the key, because that can give you the freedom. So what Sarah's really talking about here with that judgment is, a great step is just turning in, and that simple act of connecting with yourself and asking, what's going on here, and playing with that dialogue is really helpful to free yourself from that judgment. And that's something that I'd want to encourage you guys to do today. And notice when it comes up for you, and actually play with that dialogue, have a conversation with yourself, and notice where that's showing up in your body, and be in that space, because that is the difference between you just going and pushing through another workout, ignoring it, right? And feeling stress and tension in your body, which causes more inflammation. And that's also the difference between you getting up and going to the refrigerator to ease a feeling that you don't want to be feeling. So Sarah, thank you so much. You talk often about, and I love this because this is something that we haven't addressed yet, but there are so many different mood disorders and things that come up, from ADD to ADHD to, just us waking up and one day we can feel great and we're motivated, right? Like this happens all the time where you're motivated for a week, you're doing so great, and then life happens. So I would love if you could just talk about, how those impact our bodies. And if you could give us, I love to give action steps. So if you could give us some ways in which we can start to filter out the moods and be in a space to stay in an inspired state.
Yeah, I love this topic. I could talk about it forever because it's just so simple when we get out of our own way. Literally, it's like when we stop listening to this and we drop down into our heart and we are willing to listen to the symptom, even the mood swings. It's like we're not designed to be happy all the time. This is what I love about Chinese medicine. If you look at the 5 elements, the way everything flows,
Yep.
there's a season for everything. So if you are in a bad mood, or if you're angry or pissed off, it's really, it can be an uncomfortable experience based on the projections and the rejections and the expectations and the separations and the decisions and the judgments of everybody in your earlier informative years. So, kind of before 3, where we knew that our first line of communication was energy. So we were looking at the microfacial expressions. We were looking for feedback from our primary caregivers, and they give us a look. We knew that we might want to move out the way because that person is expressing some kind of anger, but we take it on and we personalize it, and we do this with animals too. We anthropomorphize animals to be in a place of not looking at their body language and their true expression, but we go into the projection of what we think is dangerous.
Okay.
So if you're flowing, if you're angry, that's in Chinese medicine, that is the wood element. It's governed by wood, and the natural consciousness of wood is a healthy expression of anger. It's when it gets pathological. It's when we're not expressing in a healthy way. So, if we're told, oh, you're not allowed to be angry. My mom used to say, you can't ever be sad because you look angry. I mean, what do you do with that as a child?
Yeah.
It's really confusing if you're trying to just express and release in a natural way. What do? Well, you start to shove it down and you start to be somebody you're not, and you eventually wake up one day and you don't know who you are because you've been told not to be in your true expression of yourself. And, anger is governed by the liver and the gallbladder. So the liver and the gallbladder are all about conscious planning and decision making. So if you're feeling stuck because you're not expressing your anger, that, oh my God, I'm so frustrated and I want to move this way, but everybody's telling me to move that way, it's going to cause a little disharmony in your body parts and in your organs and your endocrines. And this is why we end up with, chronic indigestion, or in the mind, we feel like we're sitting on the fence and we're being told wrong because, come on, make up your mind. So, when you start to look at the flow of things, if you're not watering your wood, for example, which is governed by kidney and bladder, and that's all around existential control and fear, which, A-type personality perfectionists like us know, that's not a good place. You got to water your wood, otherwise you end up snapping tendons and breaking bones or having a mental breakdown because you're feeling trapped in your life.
So you're talking about the unexpressed emotions and the damage that they cause on the body. And that's and are you saying that is the root of these different shifts in our moods and the actual, what creates like those different mood disorders of ADD, ADHD, and different things of that nature?
Yeah, so if you were a child and your body wanted to move you away from a situation that wasn't comfortable for it, and you were told to sit still and be quiet, this is where you start tapping your legs and you start agitating. And in nature, you see this. It's that animals know how to move. It's that fight, flight, the prey and the predator stuff.
Yeah.
So if you just look at a horse, if the whole herd suddenly looks, they don't run and waste energy running until they know that there's a threat. Then they run, and then they stop and they assess. So they're running off that energy of fight, flight. But we're all stuck in this freeze place. So then we're just saying, oh, well, she's too fidgety, or, she's anxious. So just put her, she must be ADD or OCD or whatever. And instead of looking.
Our society loves to label.
Yeah.
And loves to label you as being wrong in some way.
Yeah. And this is where we start to collect labels. I collected every label under the sun. I had childhood depression, and then I was borderline functional autistic. Instead of looking at it from a space of that, you actually start to believe what you're told. So one of my best tips would be, as a starting point, is to actually start to ask, when you start to feel contraction or tightness in your body, is ask your body, what is this? What is this? And just be quiet enough. I think it's our job to listen, to see what our bodies are saying. We have stopped listening to our body's innate intelligence. It has its own wisdom. It wants to tell you that something's out of congruence with your life, that something that maybe you're not aligned with your core values, or maybe that you're not moving in a way that's going to give you more of you. And I think depression asks us to have a lot of trust and faith in ourselves and in our lives too. And it's not always a comfortable experience. And I think that's where we're like, most people would rather have, avoid any pain whatsoever, because we've misidentified pain as intensity. We're multisensory beings. We're here to experience on every single level of every fiber of our being, and yet we're locking it down. We're cutting it off. Like, if I can't be happy, or if I don't get this right, then I'm stupid. We go to this law of extremities all the time, where if we don't get this, we think we can't have anything in between. And that's the part where, if you really start to look, and nobody wants to go there, because it doesn't look good and it doesn't feel good, especially if you're having a little, temper tantrum in the middle of a shopping mall, instead of looking around and thinking, wow, whose energy are you maybe picking up? Because your body's so smart, and we are literally like these giant satellite receivers. So we're picking up thoughts, feelings, and emotions from everyone all the time, and if you're kind of lying there thinking, oh, I don't want to get out of bed today, you might want to ask, does that even belong to you? Whose thought is that? Where are you receiving that information? Maybe it's your neighbor. Maybe it's someone, 100 miles away that doesn't want to go to work because they hate their job. So it's not always yours. Just because you feel it doesn't mean it belongs to you. So I love question. And for me, it's just about questioning, is this mine? Who does it belong to? Because maybe it's not. Maybe it's not even yours. And you don't have to do anything. I think it's really about just being in that space, and really going deep into it and having the patience to listen. Yeah. Because we all have that hero or that heroine inside of us. And it's that part of us that finds our courage. It finds our way into showing up and being a contribution to other people that may be being in the same conflictual reality as you. And by just being vulnerable enough to share that, and go, hey, you know what? I don't know the answer. I don't know what this mood is that I'm feeling, but not look at good or bad emotions. They're just feelings.
Well, and sometimes you're speaking to something that is so important that I love, because somewhere along the lines, it's become wrong to have any feelings that aren't joy and bliss, right? Like, the idea of being sad somehow is like, well, I was sad yesterday, but only for a minute. I got myself out of it, and I was angry, but then I took myself in a different room, and it's like, sit with those feelings, like cry, allow you guys allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. It's healthy. That's why there's a multitude of emotions, like the 7 dwarfs in Snow White. We all have different days. We all have different people, essences within us. And so what Sarah Jane's saying is, feel those feelings. Don't make yourself wrong for them, and allow them to come out. And not only that, but get to know them. Where are they coming from? Find out and actually be with them, so that you can get to the root and resolve them without making yourself wrong. And that's the biggest key here, is not to make yourself wrong. Feelings are feelings, and they're meant to be felt, right?
Beautifully.
Yeah. So,
yeah,
I wanted to go on to, you had mentioned something that I think is fantastic. And so there's a great book for highly sensitive people, and it's called The Highly Sensitive Person. And you are somebody that speaks to this in the sense of, not to that book, but to the concept that there are different types of people, some more sensitive and susceptible to other people's energies, and that will take on other people's experiences more as their own than other people would that aren't highly sensitive. Can you explain a bit about the highly sensitive person and how that impacts us in regards to our health, to losing weight, and to really thriving in life?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, if you are literally like this big psychic SpongeBob and you're not allowing those, I love your analogy of the seven dwarfs to come tripping through your life, because literally it is that's the chaos that we actually create when we think that this is all mine and I have to do something with it, that we start to shut down and we go into that freeze mode. And, that's a real high state of arousal. And a lot of time, it doesn't matter. Your environment's triggering you all the time, whether that's through chemical toxins or toxic thought or whatever it is. We're constantly being bombarded by all of this stuff, inanimate and animate. We're connected to all of it. So, the best way to look at this again is to just look at how, sometimes you have to go down first. That's the separation part of the journey. And you have to go down. So go down into it. But when you kind of come from, and I can only speak from my own experience of being so sensitive to the environment that you desensitize and you start to cut off and you start to feel alone, that you can't change it, and there's this hopelessness, that it just creates this ripple effect of, as you said, pick your pleasure or your pain of how you want to suffer. Maybe you're going to create eczema, or maybe you're going to have leaky guts, or maybe you're going to have constant migraines. And again, it's like, if you start to look at what the value is of what you get out of avoiding having an intense life, then you can actually start. And then it's kind of like that anxiety and that depression for me. It almost asks if we can hold ourselves to that, to that feeling. A lot of us don't know how to hold ourselves. But I think when you don't know how to just say, okay, even though I may be overreacting or even though I may be depressed, I'm not useless. I'm just not functioning at my optimum right now. And maybe I'm not at my sexiest, but I've got me. It's literally about having your own back.
Yes.
And just saying, it's okay. I can be perfectly imperfect. I can be a mess. I can be in shame or blame.
There's nothing wrong with being a mess.
No, and it's in the mess that we find our message, right? That's where the message is. That's where the gift is. But we're so, like you so beautifully said, we're so busy trying to skim over the parts of feeling intensely alive that we can't, again, it's that law of extremities. You can't have happiness without knowing sadness. You can't have joy if you don't recognize the loss or the pain or the trauma or the challenge that was the gift that gets you to that place without flattening yourself out with prescription drugs.
Yeah, and that I believe you and I both work on this with our clients as well, which is that sense of value, and raising that bar for value with self also raises that bar with value in life, with abundance, coming into money, really clearing up that relationship. And that is something that, those fears, that fear of failure, it's like, everybody fails. Of course you're going to fail. You've already failed a million times. I said that to somebody yesterday. It's like, but you've already failed. Like, you've been dieting. Like, we've all, diets, anything, going after what you want in some capacity, we fail. But Sarah, I wanted to ask you, there's also a fear of happiness when people have been living in a lot of pain. When they start to feel happy, it's like it's almost becomes an unknown. And they're like, I was happy, but how long can that last for? It's like, how can we shift that for ourselves to be in that space of allowance, to receive that joy and allow for more?
Yeah, again, I think this is just a state of constant grace. It's a state of treading gently on the earth, but
Now, when
being
you
you.
say grace, can you explain grace?
I would, yeah, for me, grace is the willingness to be out of congruence. It's the willingness to be a mess. It's the willingness to fall down and get up again. It's saying, like you were saying, it's not a mistake. It was an experience that has brought me closer to who I want to be, rather than away from my true nature by trying to fit myself into a box. Because meaning, it's the meaning making, isn't it? It's just like, what does grace mean to you? It's not going to mean the same thing to me. But if I think of a ballet dancer and how beautiful and graceful the performance is, what happened to get her to that point was the bloody toes and the sore muscles and the pain and the falling down and over again, just like a baby. We come into this world knowing that we are a gift, we're magnificent, until somebody starts to tell us that we're not. And this is where we start to fragment away from the mystery and the adventure of falling gracefully. That it's okay to fall down. Babies get up. They keep getting up and they keep getting up. Nobody says, oh, stop now. You're never going to crawl because you're such a terrible baby.
Oh, you're making me think of my niece right now. Yes.
Nobody does that. We're like, yes, go. You're doing a great job. Keep going.
Yeah.
And I think this is women. This is something that is very close to my heart, is that it's time for women to celebrate other women.
I'm right there with you.
Stop thinking that because somebody has this incredible gift that you're less than. Celebrate that and come together in this place of knowing that there's no lack of shining on the planet. There is, we together we can go so much further. And that's the connection. I think this is what OCD is. This is what all those labels are. Is that separation sickness, where we have separated from the very thing that we want. And that's the connection. That's this, that I get to show up on a different timeline in a continent miles away from you. And I have this heart connection with you because together we're going somewhere where we know anything is possible if we could just get the judgment out of the way.
So I also just want to say, you guys, anybody that has any judgments on themselves, because we all do, right? No one is sitting there free of judgment, self-judgment. But, these labels also are a way of us staying small, because we can make ourselves wrong. And the more that we're wrong, it's, another reason why you can't. Well, my ADD, it gets in the way, or my this or my that, or, even with dieting, it's, until I lose the weight, then I can. I still need to be fixed before I need to love me before I can be in a relationship. I need more money before I can invest in that. I need this before I can go back to school, right? Like, so it's the same thing, moods, disorders, different things. I'm not discounting them. I'm not saying for anybody, please no. I'm not saying that you aren't validated. What I am saying is see how you use that as a way to not really shine. If it gives you some sort of backdoor out of really showing up in your full brilliance and allowing yourself to shine as bright and be that best version of you, because that's what can happen when we've been labeled at a young age one way, or at any age. And then we allow those labels to build who we are, and they create our story, and we allow our story to keep us stuck. And I want to encourage you to take in everything that Sarah Jane has talked about today, everything that I've interjected with, and to know that you can rewrite your story, and you can be with the pain and find pleasure in it, and come out any way that you want to and shine so bright. So Sarah Jane, I just want to say thank you so much for being here today. You have an incredible free gift for everybody, which is so generous. Thank you. And I would love if you could tell everybody what that gift is and how they can learn more about you and be connected with you.
Thank you. Yeah. So based on what we were talking about today, literally ending that weight of judgment, stop waiting and start to create your life. Yeah, this is just really the tip of what we're sharing today, is that if you don't start to address those root cause resolution of the stories, that the identification with the labels, with all of that, and start to truly come home and love yourself, even if you're a mess, then nothing that you grow and build or add as far as, diet. I mean, those five main things, diet, the rest, the exercise, reducing your stress, taking the supplements, none of it holds, because we go back into the old habitual patterns of what we think is safe or capping our happiness, like you were talking about. So I have gifted to everybody that's brave enough to come with me a 30-day self-love challenge. And it is a challenge, because I have had a few people after day 4 or 5 say, oh my gosh, today's exercise and mindfulness was just too much. And oh my gosh, when I did the peace process on day 7, I don't want to do it anymore because I don't want to love my body completely or love where I am completely. So every day it's a little love note. It's a mindful practice. So it's got an application to it of just one baby step, because we know it takes 30 days to rewire those neural pathways. And it's just a beautiful container that I'm hoping that people will receive, to just to consider that they're loved and they're loved already. And just by changing one little thing every day, there's some activations, there's some meditations,
Right.
Some orientation.
Thank you so much. That is a beautiful and such a generous gift. And you guys, you can get that. You just click the link below and you can be a part of this amazing 30-day challenge. Sarah Jane, thank you so much. And make sure to connect with her. We have her website linked below as well. Is there anything else that you wanted to share? You have your website up. Is there anything else?
Just to for people to just know that there's hope, that nothing is forever. We can move through it. It's just temporary. And that when we really start to combine all these aspects of all these beautiful speakers that you've brought together on this show and your work, that you can start to come from a place of caring for yourself, and something miraculous starts to happen to the physical body when you really start to do this deep work and just ask for support. I would just really, really want to tell people that, ask for help. Don't think you have to do it all on your own, because you're not alone. You're so supported, and there's a way through it. So I would just say, be miraculous, because you are, and be willing to really become your own medicine.
So beautiful. Okay, what a great way to end. So you guys, Sarah Jane, you have this video and audio for the next 48 hours. Make sure to watch it, share it with your friends, click the buttons below, share it out with family and loved ones and anyone that you know that can benefit. This event, I'm on a mission to light the light inside each and every one of you, so that you shine so bright and share your gifts, so that you then in turn light the light in the people around you. And I believe in this mission. This is my mission with the work that I do. And I believe that we can change the world. So please share this. I would love that, and share the event. And we're doing beautiful things here. Stay tuned. You've got 2 weeks. Make them count. If you want this event for life, you can do so by getting it at healthyhotandhappyevent.com/yes, where you not only have access to all of these incredible speakers, their videos, their audios with lifetime access, their mantras, their daily action steps, but you also receive a 4-pack bonus bundle with my Body Love Cleanse, my mantra cards, oh my gosh, a water recipe book, 65 water infusions, and a one-on-one call with me. So definitely go check it out, and you can get that for a limited time at a special price at healthyhotandhappy.com. event.com/yes. And it is the prestige package that we put together for your success. Sarah Jane, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, as always, I love seeing you and cannot wait to see you with the next expert. Have a beautiful day.